Welcome back, everyone. Mate Talk time, second one for the year. I was going to say I apologize, but it was what it was. Last week's Mate Talk was like nearly 40 minutes. When I tried, well, there's no trimming because it's one continuous row. But there was a lot. I had a lot to say, so I appreciate your patience. I didn't look at the analytics whether people like after 5 minutes were dropping out, going, you know what, dude, that's enough. Although one thing that I did see on the analytics is that the view, the amount of time was actually higher than normal. So for those who stayed to the end, it was a marathon, and today it's going to be shorter. All right, so not that I'm going to rush, but I had a lot to say last week. That's out of the way. It was almost like anyway, the first one for the year. There was a lot to say. Let me move forward. Now, one thing that I asked, well, actually, before I start, my mate. I'm going traditional today. I'm hoping you guys have an awesome drink in front of you. One thing that a young man by the name of Sam, you've heard me mention Sam many times. He's not my nephew, by the way. I mentioned him so many times that it sounds like he's family. Anyway, so Sam did ask me the question about the mate holders that are on the website. Currently, we can only send them out around Australia. We're getting that fixed, all right? So anyone who may have, I used to be in a corporation, well, I used to work for a big organization, and my manager would say to me, if one person complains, it means that 20 others have the same problem or same complaint but haven't said anything. So whenever you see one complaint, know that there is 21 in total. So I'm only assuming that maybe others have tried to click on it and realize that it's only for Australia that I'm doing shipping. That is wrong. So I think I mentioned that we're updating our website. We're getting new things put on there, and so I'll make sure that it's international delivery. But that's going to be fixed, I promise. Let me have a little drink, excuse me. All right, so last week I mentioned that what was your 2022 most reached for fragrances? And this is an interesting distinction because I'm not asking for favorites. We have our, things that we love, but it was about how often, what were the fragrances that we most reach for? I was thinking that there were going to be double ups when it comes to names. There wasn't. Only one fragrance, and you've probably seen it by the thumbnail, that it is a Xerjoff, but I'm going to talk about that particular fragrance in just a second. But what I did see that there were themes when it comes to houses, people enjoying fragrances from that house. And so instead, what I'm going to do is houses that got multiple mentions. So the following is what was popular in 2022 from all the people that wrote in, and thank you for those who did. First ones, the ones that got 2 mentions, all right? So houses that got 2 mentions within different fragrances. And I'm gonna put them here. So Paris Monte Carlo, and in fact, actually Paris Monte Carlo, both mentions was for Mandarino di Sicilia, which that was my first one in that Italian collection. People, if you want something really, really beautiful and special, summer, winter fragrance, Mandarino di Sicilia, just check it out. I mean, my number one pick for last year, most reached for, was the Neroli Mediterraneo, but the Mandarino is really spectacular. So, 2 mentions, houses, Paris Monte Carlo, Matière Première, Kajal, Aaron Terence Hughes, Tom Ford, Tower, the brand from Swiss, Swiss brand, the brand from Switzerland, and Etat de Libre d'Orange. Is that right? Etat Libre d'Orange. Yeah, I'm trying to do my French right. So each one of these got 2 mentions of different fragrances. The following got 4 mentions. So these are brands that in different fragrances. Number 1 was Amouage. I got 4 mentioned, and Orto Parisi also got good representation with 4 mentions. The next one is 5 mentions. So these are people, now we're really these are the brands that really were firing. Roja Dove, so I got 5 mentioned. And the Perfume de Mali also got 5 mentions. Now, the big hitter, now massive separation with 10 mentions, was Xerjoff. So Xerjoff was as a house, was a very popular brand in 2022 with everyone that wrote in. And the #1 fragrance that got multiple hits, so regardless of all the things, I mean, with all these houses, there were ones and twos, like I said, with Paris Monte Carlo. Two of them were for the Mandarino di Sicilia, but this glorious fragrance here, which is 40 Knots by Xerjoff, got 4 mentions. So there were multiple people that jumped in. And now I have to say that when I saw, I'm glad that 40 Knots got that kind of love. I've had, last year, I had a few subscribers write into me and say that they had purchased, or they had blind purchased 40 Knots, and that they thought, I don't get it and I want to sell it. And I wrote back to these individuals and I said, just hang tight, just put it away. It's a very complex fragrance. You think 40 Knots, it is deemed as an aquatic fragrance. Problem is that when you think aquatic, you think those classic marine notes, almost sea air kind of sort of feel about it, possible seaweed components, salty, all that sort of stuff. Whereas this, it surprises you. So I actually wrote to those individuals and said, look, hang tight, put it away, put it in the cupboard, come back to it in 6 to 10 months time, bring it out again. This works well in winter or summer, and then see how your nose has evolved, because, and as we've noted, this is a really spectacular, beautiful summer fragrance. So I'm wearing it today. I was inspired by everyone sort of mentioning this particular fragrance, but it can also play really well in winter. Now, what I've done is I sprayed this morning, so it's now been about 2 hours, 2+ hours, and I just sprayed before I started on this hand, because there is such a beautiful evolution on this fragrance. This is non-linear, very complex the way it evolves. And so I want to talk about the 2 parts of this particular fragrance. So if I look at the opening, excuse me, I'm going to take a small drink, excuse me. So I look at the opening. When I first sprayed this, I got equal part a sweet sort of fruit note, or something that was, for me, I had apple in my brain. So a sweet fruit note mixed in with like a salty, musky component to it. And it actually, when I first sprayed it, it actually surprised me in an exciting way. I'm like, whoa, this is cool, you know? Again, my brain, well, I knew that this was going to be or deemed as an aquatic. So when I smelt these opening notes, I'm like, whoa, this is really, it's an exciting fragrance. It made me think, because Torino 22 opens also with a sweet, and for those who saw the video that I did on the unboxing, the first sort of smell, and I mentioned that it reminded me of a caramel apple. So breaking down those notes or finding out what it is, it's the saffron in Torino 22 plays a big role. So I'm wondering if there is an opening of a sweet saffron in this particular fragrance. It's only for the opening, and some people, and I read some comments that they get a little bit destabilized by that opening because it does have that sweetness to it. They're expecting it to be salty marine-like, and yet it's a little bit unusual. I actually like, as I mentioned earlier, I like that opening. I think there's something quite alluring about it. But there is a sweetness. There is a salty sweetness, okay? Then as it dries down, excuse me, refresh the nose. It does go salty, marine, musky. So on me, I find that this has great, so finish that. On me, I find that this has great longevity. I love wearing this as a summer fragrance, and this is why I guess it leans a little bit more summery, because when I start to sweat, but I'm talking like sweat and heat and summer and all that sort of stuff, this fragrance really blooms. I feel like it blooms best in a summer environment. It does work well in winter, so I can still feel it. I think now because it's joined the club, it's part of the Join the Club collection, we don't know the actual notes, and so we're just making assumptions. The components in there are woody, marine-like, salty, with musk involved in there too. And I think because of the musk that's in there, it does have this longevity and plays with my own body chemistry essentially. But in summer, I start to sweat. Now today in Melbourne, it's going to be ridiculous. It's like 37, 38 degrees. And so I know that this thing is going to just explode. It's just gonna bloom so beautifully on me as I start to sweat and move around. Summer fragrance, it is a marine, so there are marine-like qualities. Awesome as a summer fragrance. If you want something that's very unique, very different, if you like those marine kind of fragrances, something a little bit different, then I would recommend to you also 40 Knots. And not only do I recommend it, but a lot of the other subscribers also put forward as the most reached for in 2022. All right. Now, I received an email from a gentleman by the name of Gerard, and I love that Gerard took my question, what was your most reached for, to another level. Have a look at this. He shared with me his collection. Now, it's on a website. Actually, I'll put it here. Truthfully, it's not one that I normally look at Fragrantica. Gerard mentioned that this website here is also very good if you want something a little bit different. You can also, house your library, all that sort of stuff. So he's taken the time to house his library, so I guess the visual representation. I can see he's an analytics man, and he gave me a breakdown of what was his most. Look, I don't know how he broke up these numbers, but I'm going to trust everything that he shared with me. And he mentioned that the most reached for house, because he has a large collection in this particular house, was Tom Ford. Have a look at the collection that he does have. I think he has more fragrances than Tom Ford himself from his own house. So the most reached for house was Tom Ford, but the most reached for fragrance was Bohemian Lime by Goldfield and Banks. So it made me very happy to see an Aussie company taking first place for Gerard. But if you haven't had a chance to have a look at Bohemian Lime, check that fragrance out. Also another beautiful fragrance for summer. Moving on. That was 2022, so that's the popular fragrances out there. I want to point out that next week I will be doing the membership raffle. So for those who are members, I'll pick somebody next week. I love doing the wheel. Do you like the wheel? I like the little spinning wheel, the suspense, what's going to happen. Anyway, if you don't like it, let me know and I can change it up, but I think the wheel looks pretty cool. But anyway, next week I will be doing the raffle. For those who are members, you can join this week and you'll be part of that for next week. I will choose 2 samples based on what you like, and I'll send that through to you so you can enjoy. All right, that's that. The last one is, have a look at this. So I mentioned that the International Mate Talk 2022 posters were created. This is one of the gentlemen that bought, so his name is Mark, and he sent me this photo. And I just let everybody know, if I put anything from an individual, photos that they've sent me, I ask permission. So I'm not going rogue and putting these images up. Everybody had agreed that they were comfortable for me to share these images with you guys. But this is the poster in situ. I love that the poster is overseeing this display, and I think it might be like a cognac or something like that that's in the decant. I also love that the 3 fragrances it looks like a Naxos. Then you have Dahab, it looked like, and also the third one was, because I'm going by memory because I can't see the image, Boom Bing. It was, what was the third one? Oh my gosh, it's that one, which again was another, now my brain's going, I know what it is, but I just forgot. Anyway, so I love the way this poster is. I love the whole, I don't know, it feels cool to be in Mark's home overseeing his perfume collection. And look at this collection. I love the way that this whole library of fragrances is displayed. I love the down lights. It would be, for me, I could see myself walking up to this and doing this with my fingers going, what is it going to be today that I'm going to spray? So beautiful collection, Mark. Congrats to you, my friend. Oh, by the way, on that, number 7 is gone. Number 1, number 2, and number 7. I love that somebody has a lucky 7 out there. So if you're interested in that poster, you can actually, and maybe I've made a mistake because they sent me an email to request number 7. So maybe you can't buy it. So if you would like to get a poster, send me an email just in case until we fix that shipping across the world thing. last thing. This gentleman here, his name is Luc, and he is, I'm going to try my best to say this right. I'm going to cheat. Mon prof de français. So he's my French professor. Mon prof de français. Luc, did I say that right? I hope so. So Luc helps me with my French pronunciation. It's bad because of me, not because he's an awesome teacher, by the way. He writes things phonetically for me so I can see it exactly how I should be saying it. So, champion. I mentioned that I'm going to be in Italy at the end of March, so last week of March essentially. And Luc mentioned that he too was going to be there. I also had someone else reach out to me, I think it was Frederique, mentioning that she too was going to be in Milan. So what I thought is this. For anybody who might be in that part of the world, end of March, I don't have a date yet because we're still sort of working ourselves out when it comes to some engagements that we're doing with some of the brands. But once that all settles, and it'll settle by the end of this month, I'll put forward a date. Let's all meet at the Fueguia. Now I say Fueguia, but I think I'm saying it wrong, which is not unlike me. I do go rogue with words. I think that I've heard two pronunciations. One is Fueguia, and I've also heard Fueya. I say Fueguia, so it could be, I think it is Fueya. I've got a feeling it's going to be Fueya. Anyway, the Milan store of Fueguia is just beautiful. For those who might not be familiar with this particular boutique, it's just a glorious place. So I thought it would be cool. Why don't we all meet there? Let's all congregate in this space, smell some perfumes together. So all are welcome. So if you're going to be there, let me know. So give me a heads up because I would love to send the boutique an email. Otherwise, imagine there were 100 people. Wouldn't that be cool? There won't be 100, but if there's 5 of us, for instance, I don't want to feel that we're coming in like I don't want to crowd their space too much. So give them a heads up. So let me know if you are interested. Last week of March, we can meet in Milan, and it would be cool to meet a lot of you guys face to face and smell some fragrances together. Boom. All right, gang. Awesome to see you all. Well, not see you. Awesome to connect with you all. Look forward to your comments. Making it a priority that the Mate Talk comments, I want to answer them as quickly as possible so that they don't bank up on me. So thanks. We'll see you guys all on the next Mate Talk.